When my mom told me she was planning to move her meth-head boyfriend in with us, well, to say that I was pissed would be an understatement. I told her absolutely not and put my foot down. It was either him or me. Our relationship had been on a rocky terrain ever since Dad died, and I spent the following years in and out of juvie for delinquent behavior. So, unsurprisingly, she chose him. She said it was her house, and if I didn't like it, I should move out. And I did. The apartment hunting process was a complete nightmare. My mom's house was on the outskirts of the Wicker Park, but I quickly found out that my crappy retail job didn't pay enough for me to be near the area. I got word from a friend of a friend about a vacancy in the building where her cousin lived, in Englewood of all places, and it was supposedly fully furnished. The area was sketchy, to say the least. Not that my previous neighborhood was a dream of suburbia, but I knew where I should and shouldn't go and who not to mess with. The prospect of having to learn that all over again was extremely exhausting. The placement of the apartment inside the building was very odd, too. After getting out of the elevator and walking through the main apartment hall, there was a narrow passageway at the end that led to two other doors, apartments 26 and 27. It felt a little like walking into an escape room type of scenario. Only worse because I was supposed to live there. At least the landlord was nice enough, with strong grandfather vibes, despite not looking like he was old enough to be one. He said,
"I was lucky because that was the last unit available."
Well, I wasn't sure if lucky was how I felt, more like desperately out of options. The inside of the apartment was bleak. The walls were of a faded gray color, or perhaps just extremely dirty white walls. It was open concept in that it had 4 walls and not a single division for anything. At least it came with a small built-in closet. One of the other walls, however, was decorated with a painting, the only speck of color in the whole place. Mr. Williams must have noticed me looking because he said,
The previous tenant left this behind. She was a troubled young woman. Very troubled, but very talented, too. She actually painted that."
"She was a painter?" I asked.
Not professionally, I don't think so. I'm ashamed to say that I still don't know much about her. And no one came to collect her things after. That's why...
Right, that was where the furniture came from. She left it behind. What happened to her? He made a vaguely distant hand gesture.
Well, all we know is that she went missing. Just puff. Never seen or heard from again.
He continued on by giving me some very alarming information about the crimes that happened in the area, and that I absolutely should check all the windows every single day, especially the one that led to the fire escape. I couldn't do anything that first night aside from staring at the window waiting for an unknown creep to try and snatch me away from bed. The bed that belonged to a woman who was probably dead. 2 weeks in, I was pretty much used to the place and the surroundings. What I could not get used to were the weird noises I heard on a nightly basis. It sounded like a whispered singing mixed with alternating cries, just so fucking creepy. And the smell. Sometimes at night I would wake up to the smell of something burning. It was faint. Not like someone forgetting their dinner on the stove, but like a candle that had been left burning for too long. It had to be coming from apartment 27. It was the only one close enough to mine. I talked to Mr. Williams about it. He gave a full belly laugh in response, suggesting I was hearing ghosts because no one lived in apartment 27. Very confusing, since he mentioned that my unit was the last one available. And that had to mean that apartment 27 was occupied, right?
Oh, it was the last unit available. Apartment 27 has been vacant for almost 2 years after the owner died. The inspector said it's unsafe to live in because of all the black mold inside.
I was about to protest, but he spoke before me.
Oh, don't worry, it was fully sealed. Nothing of this bad stuff is getting out.
Why not just fix the place? I demanded.
There's some sort of legal battle happening between his kids, and until then, no one can touch the place.
Mr. Williams then said that I shared a wall with the bathroom from apartment 25, and that was probably where the noises came from. It was plausible enough, but I was still not fully convinced. Spending many years in and out of juvie taught me to always be skeptical and never take things at face value. Something else that I learned there was how to pick a lock in record time. So, when I heard the noises again 4 nights later and confirmed that they seemed to come from apartment 27, I decided to investigate. The door, when it opened, made a small creaking sound that seemed to echo inside the place. To me, that meant the place was probably empty, or had very little furniture. The little I could see seemed to corroborate Mr. Williams' statement about it being abandoned and sealed off. And it smelled like that, too. The air was stale, but at the same time there was a rancid quality to it, like trash forgotten in the corner for too long. Using the flash on my phone as a guide, I scanned the place looking for the supposed black mold, but didn't find any. The place looked dirty, abandoned, and decayed, but nothing that seemed contagious. All the windows had been covered, though, and not with a slab of wood or something removable. No, they were cemented over, and that didn't sit well with me. When I continued to explore, I noticed that, different from my apartment, there was actually a division that appeared to be a small room. Something told me that I should just drop it and get out of there, forget the whole thing, and just go to sleep. But I was never the one to listen to reason anyway. I walked towards the room with unsure steps and opened the door. The first thing I noticed was a new smell. Putrid, gag-inducing, and impossible to ignore. I dropped my phone, desperately trying to cover my nose and mouth, but it didn't work. The stench clung to the back of my throat, and I almost threw up inside my mouth because of it. When I finally recovered and grabbed my phone, the light shone on the corner of the room, and I was confronted with the worst sight I had ever seen. A woman lying on top of a soiled mattress and chained to the wall. I couldn't believe my eyes. It had to be a very vivid nightmare. I just couldn't believe it.
Hit the follow button for part 2.